Iliza, I'm so happy that you're here right now. Thanks for making the time. Oh
Thanks
no.
for having me.
Okay, I thought I
Oh
could.
no.
Oh no.
Okay.
Say
Oh
that
no.
again.
Oh no.
Take
Thanks,
two.
Kathy. I woke up 5 minutes ago and I depuffed my face, but unsuccessfully. It looks a little weird this morning. And
You are adorable. You're actually one of those people who's so pretty that you're like, how, damn it, how can she be this pretty and this funny? That doesn't feel fair.
I really appreciate that. I'm very small on your camera and no one has a close up. And I think this morning I'm disproving all of those thoughts.
Nope,
Oh,
not
oh,
even a little bit.
thanks.
So we have people on this show often who are like, fancy like you, like Matthew McConaughey and Rob Lowe. And sometimes I'm like starstruck, and other times I'm like obsessed with the person. So it's a little strange. I've seen you live probably 49 times. And
Wow.
you are just such a gem, such a
Oh,
the most sort of dynamic combination of somebody who's genuine and then hilarious and lovable. I feel like to be
thank
lovable
you.
and that
Yeah.
funny, I just think that that's so rare. We live in such a cynical time, and you make things funny and you're so endearing at the same time. Like, I just am such a big fan.
Oh my God, will you please write my bio?
Yes,
Because like
right
all
now.
the things you're saying are all the things I've always wanted people to get. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I am lovable.
You
Yeah.
are you're literally adorable, and it's weird to say those words
To
in a
another grown
sense.
woman. Yeah.
Well, because when you walk out on stage, the first thought is she's very pretty, and then to be adorable and hilarious. I just feel like you're just so yourself. And
Yeah.
so we're Jewish. My husband and I were Jewish, and we were trying to think of a name for my daughter. I was pregnant at the time, and we were seeing you for like the 38th time. And I was like, wait, she's an awesome Jewish girl and she's the best. So we're naming her Eliza. So
Oh my
I named my
God.
daughter Eliza as
How
a
did you spell
fact.
it? How did you spell
Differently,
hers? Like
differently
we
with the
spelled hers
E.
the normal way because we didn't want it to be. We didn't want our daughter to grow up to be a comic. Well, that is such a compliment, and thank you. And wow, I was not prepared for this
No,
much kindness. Usually you do a podcast, and it's like coming on. We have Eliza. I can't say your last name, and then they read your Wikipedia, and then
yeah,
you're like, "How rude can I be?" while still smiling at this person. Well, that
right.
is just thank you, Kathy.
I don't know. And
Wow.
I said to my husband just before, I was like, she's going to be really nice. I just know that she's going to be nice. So thank you for being here. All right. So now
Oh,
let's have this conversation. So we
I'm
have
ready.
an audience that is about 90% women. And
Hey, girls.
hey girl, hey.
Hey.
We we sort of started this movement. I started this show 4 years ago in my closet, and we're 20 million downloads later. And I think it's because
Good for you.
there's all these closeted uh creative people who feel just kind of miserable, and it's because there's something that they really want to do with their life. And so we're going to talk about how you were able to forge your path and get to do things every day that feel like you. So can we go back? Can we go back to the beginning? When did you know that this was what you were going to do? Were you like 4 or 17 or 27?
I don't remember. I'd have to ask my mom, but I think my whole life, I've always known I was going to be funny for a living. There was like a brief period there when I was like 6 that I thought I was going to be an archaeologist. But and I still have the rock collection to prove it. But I always knew I was going to be funny for a living. And I remember thinking, because, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, so not Los Angeles and not Universal Studios in Orlando where they shot all the Nickelodeon shows. I just remember thinking, like, I'll just have to wait till I get older. And in the meantime, because there was no outlet for anything, so I would just find, like, I would get to go to performing arts camp, and I was in the improv troupe, and I would write sketches endlessly just by myself, just for the exercise of it, because I liked it. And I would film them. You get all your friends and you would redo Saturday Night Live sketches, or you'd redo your own things, you make your own movies. And if the teacher gave you, this is so funny, the teacher would always give these options, like, do you want to do a book report, like an oral presentation, or a film sketch? You're like, a film sketch. I'm not actually trying to learn about combustion engines. And always like finding that way. I did love going to school. I love learning. So I never wanted to, like, I was never rude to the teacher, but you always wanted the teacher to laugh, friends to laugh. And I would just find chances to perform camp improv troops wherever I could, because I was such a student of comedy, as it were, but and that's it. So it just kind of, it was
Okay, so
about,
then what? But that's like a big leap from that. Although that is pretty cool that as a younger person, you knew that you loved writing sketches and you had this thought, I guess I'll just wait till I'm older, as if like, this is what's happening. Like and
you're,
so it is. It's
yeah,
done.
what are you going to do? Yeah, I'll just wait.
And
I
then
went to
what actually happens? Like you move to LA, like I know some of the story, but tell us sort of the behind the scenes of the story.
people always, I think people are like, they're waiting for then like a tragedy happen and then something. This really was an example of, I've always known I was going to do it, but I didn't know the way to do it. Now there's no wrong way to get into comedy and there's no wrong way to get into stand up. And very few people listening to your podcast probably want that. But I will say this, there's no rules. So whatever, like that's the beauty of like Wild West, that is comedy and that is show business. Like there's always precedent set, but then somebody breaks it and then it's your own thing. So the one thing I learned very quickly that I believe is like, no one really knows what's going on. I
Right.
remember it used to be, to get an hour on Comedy Central, you had to do your first hour, your half hour first. But then people just got hours and bypassed the half hour, and all of a sudden it wasn't a rule anymore. Like everything's made up.
I
I
love
moved
that
to
as a
LA.
t-shirt. No one actually knows what the hell is going on.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
The key is to find those people and get them to let you in. And I moved to LA and I started doing. There was like a switch that flipped. I had done a sketch troupe in college and I went to film school, but I worked really hard at that. Like that was like our thing. And I kind of decided I don't want to write for the people in my troupe anymore. I can just say these things by myself. Like I don't need a counsel to tell me that, oh, I'm going to be the mom in this sketch or I'm going to be the
Accounts.
girlfriend or something weird. I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing.
Right.
Um, and I wrote a one-man show and I took pieces of that and I came to LA and I didn't know how to do how one could perform stand-up. I had never been in an improv. I'd never even heard of the Comedy Store. And I found like a newspaper and in the back of it there was this ad for this like stand-up school. And I remember thinking like, I don't need, like, you're either funny or you're not. Like I hate to tell you that, folks. And I was just like, I don't need a school, but I also don't think I need to learn anything. Like I'm like, I know everything. And one of the things was if you take the class, it's like a bullshit thing. You pay a couple $100s, you meet at like a Panera and you take the class, but then you get a showcase. And I remember thinking,
Right.
okay,
I
well, if
need
I could
that.
just get that showcase, then everyone will see that I'm a star. Turns out I like read the thing wrong. The showcase doesn't come at the end of level 1. You've got to like clear your feet and go to level 2, whatever. So, but I met another comic in the class, and he said to me, he was like, because I would help people in the class write their jokes. I think people there were just there for like a release, and he said, we do stand up at this bar that doesn't exist anymore on Thursdays. Why don't you come? So I found my home with this group of guys who put on a stand up show at a bar. And then slowly became, I started doing those shows, smaller shows, became a paid regular at like the Improv. And then they would send me out on weekends to like various improvs around the Southland area. And I'm not sure what that encompasses. And so you're just doing this with a day job, just sort of going where the current takes you without any real mentorship or any real blueprint other than I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to keep doing this. And I loved it. And I still do love it so much, which is why my voice sounds like this. Cause sometimes you do too many shows in
You
a
have the
weekend.
cutest voice. Like even that raspy part is a very sexy, adorable.
I,
It's like the
and
cute
that's,
Kathleen Turner.
as a comic, I aim to just be sexy, sensual. It's usually not this blown out and I worry for it, but I am about to pour a gallon of coffee down it as
Yes,
soon as it
you
gets
are.
brought in here.
So here's the thing. What you just said, it's so Herculean because I can't think of something scarier. I can't than getting on stage and figuring out material in front of a crowd. That takes, because you can tell right away in the room if it's working or not, right? And I mean, and we know
Yeah.
the story is that you're actually so freaking good at it, but it still doesn't take away the fact that it takes courage to do it. So how did you, for people who are listening who are so scared of doing the thing that they want to do, even the people who are good at the things that they do, they're still scared of doing them. How do we push through the fear of sucking at something or beginning something? How did you do that?
I mean, I think the answer to your question is different than how did I do it? Because the answer to your question is, and this is my advice to anyone, there's so many things in life that are scary. And it's not so much that you want to do them, but you want to have done them,
Right. Right.
right? Like a surgery or like climbing a mountain. You're like, it's not the act of it. Like, I just want to have I want to have
Yeah.
done it.
Done.
So, and I hate just do it. But if you only knew how little people were invested in you failing or succeeding,
Wow.
like whether you do it or not, it doesn't matter to other people. People love the narrative of like, no one said I could do it. And then I did. It's like, it was probably like two people that like you asked and they were like, you probably shouldn't because they were like wanting you to be safe. The number of comics who are
Right.
horrible, horrible, do not understand timing, have the worst material, that have been doing it as long as I have. And I think to myself, like, did no one tell you no? Or did everyone tell you no and you were like, no, I got this? Or nobody bothered to tell you no and you
Right.
took that as a green light from the universe. Either way, tomorrow that person could become famous because taste doesn't always matter.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, it other people's opinions, not opinions, you can turn them into the motivation you need, or you can just go deep inside and be like, I only have one life and I came to play. And are you really gonna, in 5 years from now, don't you want to have done it? A year from now, don't you want to have done this? I think about that all the time with stand up at 38, just the frequency with which I do it now. But like, if I had to start now, because it takes so much energy to get it going, I don't know that I could do it. You start when you're younger, when you have the collagen and you have the energy and you
Oh,
have the stupidity and you can just go.
yeah.
Do it when you're younger because it's like a gift to your older self. Like look at the groundwork I laid for you.
Yeah. First of
Go, just
all,
do it.
that is so liberating when you're like, no one actually cares. They
Oh,
don't. People are so self-involved. No one's interested in us. So that's really just so freeing to hear you say that. And then I love this. This is just so powerful when you're like, it's your one shot. You're going to do it or you're not going to do it. So the thing is, I've seen you live so many times, and I'll tell you what's so awesome is that as soon as you walk on stage, I feel it. I feel at ease because I feel like
oh,
you're relaxed. I feel like this is what I was going to ask you, because there are people who are just so brilliant, like Larry David, right? And we
mhm.
know these stories where he'll be like, I would walk out and just be like, no, and then not do a show because he felt like insulted or like he thought someone in the first row was mean or he didn't like his t-shirt. If someone even like him can be sort of swayed, I want to know what you think allows you to be so damn relaxed, because I noticed that about you, that you're like, what's up? Like, I'm good. Like, we're all fine. Like, and therefore you get everyone's buy-in right away. But how are you feeling? That's how you seem to me. But how are you
Oh, that's
feeling?
funny. That's funny because I don't think of myself as a relaxed person. I'm not an uptight person, but I'm just kind of like, I don't even know if intense is the word, although some would describe it as that. I think with that comes because I'm interested to know now what venue you saw me in, but it
Many, so
it,
many. I can't even count. Yeah, go ahead.
it really comes down more to you decide how your audience is going to be and you teach them how to treat you. And you do this on a broader level with venues. Certain venues, it's okay that the audience is acting like animals and throwing fights or breaking out. And some venues, it's like, not here, like, better. And you teach your audience what to expect from you and you teach them what you will and won't put up with. Um, and letting them know, if you think about it from a financial perspective, these people, let's say you're at a club, like let's say I'm just dropping in to do a set, like at the Improv or something. These people are spending what in many cases is their only disposable income on this 2-drink minimum. These drinks are not inexpensive, and an Uber to get there, and a basket of chicken fingers, and nobody shows up wanting to have a bad time. They want to know that they're in the hands of a professional. Who are you going to trust more if you're going skydiving? The guy that's like, hey, I've done a million of these, you're going to be so safe, hold my hand. Or the guy that's like, I think this thing is broken, I'm not sure, let's just
Yeah.
pray.
Yeah.
So I'm there to have a good time and I'm there to do work, and I'm so grateful. It's never lost on me that people are choosing to spend time with me and on me, which I think is the greatest commodity, is like giving someone your time. Um,
Absolutely.
so I respect it, and I respect it with the work that I'm going to do up there. I don't show up to work drunk. I have a policy, like, I don't drink or do any drugs before a show. Like, I won't even have a drink at brunch. Not that I ever drink at brunch. Not that anyone has brunch anymore, but I really there is an inherent respect for
Yeah.
the fact that you've chosen to come here. And I want people to have fun. And if you're not having fun, I'm gonna shift it so that at least some of you are having fun.
Yeah.
You try to leave the audience a little better than how you found them.
I think that's so powerful. And I think that that's exactly how I feel when I see you on stage is there's like a feeling of like embodiment. Like she's here. She's like present. And I think that's what I mean by relax is like there's a groundedness
Thank
and
you.
there's like a confidence that's not it's just coming from being present, like freaking present. I'm wondering now, because I know Jerry Seinfeld has been doing transcendental meditation for years. Do you have a practice or a part of your life that helps you plug into center?
No, I'm not a centered person, and my mom tells me that all the time. I
That's
could
so
always be more
loving.
centered. No, I it's okay.
I'm
She's
just
like,
kidding.
You need to get centered." And I'm like, "Totally. I'll call you later."
Yeah.
Uh, I think being on stage is that meditative practice for me. And there are shows where I had one the other night where I got off stage and I was like, "What was that? What was I saying?" And you go so fast. I have such a
What
dense
was I
set
saying?
that like I mean, this is so unrelatable for so many people, but like I have so many things that I want to say, and it's almost like the words are swirling around me. You're just trying to grab each one because you have so much, and sometimes you only have like 20 minutes, and I never want to run the light, even though so many people do. I always try to be like respectful about that, but you have to be present on stage. And I think that's when you see a real professional who's in that moment, which also means you are not married to your material. And I think that that's a great lesson in life too. And it's a great lesson in conversations and being present with people.
Right.
Somebody says something or a helicopter flies overhead, like to be agile and able to incorporate that so people get like a bespoke experience that can really never be duplicated. Like the
Yeah.
7 o'clock show is not the same as the 9. And when you comedy is mathematical, and I'm not good at math, but I do know that there is a science to it. And there are ebbs and flows in the energy. You take the audience really fast, really, we're going really fast for this joke and it's really intense, and then you drop it down. And like it's like a DJ with a beat drop. Like the crowd wants that. And they want to be led and they want to feel safe. And you can't be at 90 the whole time. Sometimes you gotta slow it down. And so tapping into that and tapping into and realizing that vulnerability does get you very far. You don't have to tell them about your C-section scar if you don't want to, but you offering up yourself as an example and
Yeah.
criticizing others, but criticizing yourself and sharing that. And when you talk about confidence, I see women's faces like light up because we so rarely role models are so shoved down our throats. Like there's this thing with women where it's like, she's another woman. You need to love her and respect her. She's a rock star. And you're like, I don't fucking know this girl. And I try to not try, but I say things that I believe and I see women light up. And it's kind of this like unspoken agreement. I'm like, yo, I've got you. Like I'm saying things that I know you're thinking. And you got to be strong about it because you got to let these guys know who maybe didn't bring their girlfriends, like, hey, I'm talking. You will not write me off. You're going to listen to this and you're going to love it. This next 20 minutes is going to be a lot of fun for everyone. So says I.
And it is. I feel like that's what's so unique about you. I cringe sometimes with certain female comics because I feel like there's something that they're defending or they're trying super hard or there's something that just doesn't feel like they're allowing whatever really is them to be enough. And I feel like with you, it's just delightful that somebody can just share about their life without being vulgar, without being like super angry at the world. And it's hilarious. And everyone's laughing. Like my husband thinks you're just as funny as Bill Burr. Like, I mean, everybody thinks you're funny. Like, it's not like he prefers a guy to you. He loves you. Like
I
everybody
appreciate that.
loves you because you
Well,
are, there's not, there's, you just don't have anything to prove. That's how I feel. There's nothing that you're trying to prove.
I appreciate that, but I will say, if you think it's frustrating to watch some female comics, you should watch some male comics on some of these lineups because, everybody is allowed to take their crack at this craft.
Yeah,
There's no one saying you can or can't. And the numbers are there are less women doing stand up than
of
men.
course.
And so what happens is if you get 3 women on that lineup and 2 suck, it's like, wow, female comics, ew. But what nobody ever counts is the like 6 dudes that
Oh,
just got up and
horrible.
told you the same joke. I watch it every night, and sometimes you're just like, I want to grab these guys and be like, dude, the point has already been made. Nobody needs a lecture on
Yeah.
civil rights from you at 26, and you're white. And so, it's women do bear the brunt of it, but I think
That's a really good point.
everybody's got to go through that. And also it takes time. It takes years. Oh my God. No, it's so loud. So loud.
Oh my
Very
God.
small dog who like defends this front door. Sorry. I don't want to get up. I don't even, okay. I was like in the middle of something. Come here. Sorry, give me 1 second. Come here. No, do not run away. Okay.
Oh my God, she's so cute. Oh my God, that dog. That's of course that's the dog that I would picture that you had. People pick dogs that are their spirit animals. That's a constant.
Okay, this one is not my spirit animal. My spirit animal died while I was on tour in Tokyo, but this is Tianfu, and
That's so sad.
I know it was the worst. I had to like go on stage the next night. It was so sad. This is Tianfu. I've had her for about I don't know, like a year and a half, and she's a rescue, and she's sweet baby, and she's not very smart, but she's sweet baby. Anyway, I'm gonna hold
The
her
sweet
now.
baby.
I don't remember what I was saying, but
You
anyway.
tell me about I think people would want to know about the big break. And I think for you, you might, I don't know, you might say there wasn't really a big break, although it seems as though there was, right? What was that experience like for you? What was the big turning point for you when you're like, oh, I'm being like thrust into stardom?
Totally. I will let you know when that happens. I'll let you know when I get there. There's no thrusting. This is a very people always
Such
I
a weird
remember
choice of words.
there's no thrusting. Dennis Leary spoke at my college graduation, and I don't remember the whole sentence, but I remember he was like, they say life is short, but it is not. It is long. And I remember laughing at that because it was one of the first times I'd heard an adult. I'd been like near a celebrity, but also like someone that like it was such a comic thing to say. He's like, you think it's this, but really, this is what it is.
Yeah.
These careers this is a hacky metaphor, but in anyone's career, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And that is such a tough pill to swallow when you want everything now and people are slow. And especially with the pandemic, I'm a very fast mover. I like to get things done. Like I'll get off the phone after a meeting and I'll call my manager. I'll be like, okay, what are we gonna do? She's like, Iliza, the call ended 30 minutes ago. I'm like, and we all have computers. I've had to teach myself to slow down just for my own health, but it's not so much a big break, but I guess I saw a real shift after Elder Millennial came out, which was my 4th Netflix special, just in terms of a real heavy presence in the zeitgeist. And now here we are a couple years later, the term Elder Millennial is being used as if it always existed, which is interesting how like long things kind of take. But that was also the real turning point to go from clubs to theaters. And in terms of just being a little bit more relevant. And then I've really only booked a couple movie gigs ever, but it's this slow build. And that's for anyone, for anything, I am in this job because of my pure love for comedy. And if stand up wasn't working and I was in a sketch troupe or I became a writer, like I was really just willing to go with the energy. And this happened to work for me. If I have so much respect for actors because if I were just an actor, I would be living at home and I would have booked like 3 gigs ever. I don't, book a ton of those. That's its own skill. You meet these people who this is why everyone's bullshit. You go on a bio and it's like entrepreneur, singer, writer, dancer, graphic designer. You can't. Some people are multi-hyphenate. Like Usher can sing and dance. Am I old because I said Usher? Jennifer Lopez sings and dance and acts, and like that's legit. Very few people, when I see people, they're like, I'm a stand-up, improv, writer, da-da-da. You're like, the 10,000 hours it takes to actually make this like a craft.
Yeah.
You can do all of them, but like this is you're probably not going to be selling tickets, which is the metric that I use Like, there are some famous people that you love, and I'm like, that person doesn't sell tickets. There are very famous comedians who cannot sell out a theater, and that's okay because that may not be what fuels them. They may be
Yep.
in a movie or they may be on whatever they're doing. So I guess at the end of the day, none of it really matters because what I'm focused on is stand up, and then because I'm good at it and it's allowed me to get to do other things. But um, so many people want to be good at so many things without
Yeah.
actually putting in the work,
It's
which is why the
so,
internet is garbage.
yep. And it's so major to hear you say,
What's she eating?
let's see. You're like, don't
I'm
eat
so
it.
sorry.
Is it
I'm sorry.
chocolate?
What is that? Hey, what is that? I'm so sorry. I'm so
No, you
sorry.
don't be sorry.
I
Don't
was
be
like,
sorry.
what? Why? Why?
Oh God, what did she
Button. This
eat?
dog has 8,000 toys and she's eating a fucking button. Why? Because she's beautiful, but stupid. I'll just have to hold her like a baby the rest of the
um,
time.
so the thing that's major about what you said is it's about putting in the work. You literally said, I think it was the fourth Netflix special where I started. It's like you've done, I think, 5, plus you're on Last Comic Standing, plus you've played a gajillion shows, and you're like the fourth Netflix special. This is where these millennials and elder millennials, we are so soft. There is no resilience anymore. We're like, oh no, they didn't like me. And then we give up so easily. Who would think it takes getting not just a Netflix special, but 4 Netflix specials in is where you're going to see a little bit of a bump. And how many people would be up for that? And like you
Well,
said, it's because you're here for the work. This is just really important.
yeah, I'm here for the work. That's what I was gonna say. I got into this because I love stand up. I didn't know the career that could be made based on this. I didn't look up to any stand-ups growing up, and I didn't know the money that could be made. I didn't get into it for that. I didn't even know that there was prize money for Last Comic Standing.
Oh
Like,
my
it's that thing where you're like, I just need to find that microphone. I mean, now I'm very in tune with the money, but
God.
and to be honest, when you start, by the way, let's remove the whole like privilege conversation because oh, yes, I went to college and that was great, but from the day I got to Los Angeles, I had a job. I worked 40 hours a week. I had a real job. I got a desk job in an office because to me, that's what one did. I was never going to be a waiter because I wasn't auditioning for things and I didn't even know anything about that. I had a job from like whatever it was, 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m.
Oh my
every day.
gosh.
And I would do stand up at night. And I'm not saying like, ooh, uphill both ways, life's so hard. I'm just saying I did that because that's what I thought I had to do. And I would do stand up at night. And when you're younger, you have the energy to do that. Um, and so, and I didn't even ask anyone's permission for anything. You just go and just do it. I forgot the rest of that, what I was gonna say, but it does take dedication and oh, that's what it
Yeah.
was. So many people see because of the internet now, they see an influencer, right? And they're like, I'm gonna do that. What you don't get, like that influencer may be garbage, but that person still all the pictures they post, their content may be dumb and they may be making like white trash cheesecake, but they're still making, editing, photoshopping,
Yeah.
posting. They're still putting work into that. And nobody ever sees anything other than the finished product. Are there people who just have like one comedy special and like they're the flavor of the week? Are there people who seemingly come out of nowhere? Yes, that's going to be for any industry and they get a chance. And but what really matters, and I have to believe this because this is the only option I'm left with, is that substance. The people who put in the work day in day out, and persistence isn't always rewarded. Consistency is rewarded in the long term, but I sometimes get passed over because I'm not exotic or because I've always been funny. So it's not a surprise that I've put out something good,
Right.
but I'm
Right.
here for the long haul. I'm not here to make a splash and be a joke and like hope that the next thing works out. Like you're talking about building foundations, not just for me, but for the team that works so
Yeah.
tirelessly for me.
Yeah.
You know, there are people invested in me, and this is not, you're not trying to be a one hit wonder. I'd rather consistently put out hits. And it's okay if one of those doesn't ever make it to number one. At least I was
Yeah.
number five my whole life.
That's so fascinating what you just said about how people expect me to be good. So they put something else out good and it's like, okay, it's like, wait a minute, that sucks in a way because people are expecting it to be a certain level and then it always is. And so it's
Like, I've never gotten a Grammy nomination, even for Elder Millennial, and you're just like, "What do I have to do?" And that's
right.
fine, it's whatever, but, you know or like an Emmy or anything like that, so you have to just put aside at a certain point, you have to realize, like, you are never gonna get the validation from the people that you want if you think about it,
Yeah.
and that goes from the comic next to me that I want to like me, or this random club, or this girl. You gotta just let it go because they either hate you
Yeah.
or don't think about you. Either way, you've
Okay.
got bigger fish to fry.
Yep. Another thing that I find just refreshing about you and different is that I think people think that the world of comedy can be dark and that behind the scenes, a lot of those people are living lives that are kind of lonely and on the road. And so sometimes people don't pursue that because they think the cost of doing it would be not having something that feels like safe, grounded, a marriage or whatever, but you have that and you don't seem like you're this tortured lonely soul going from you just seem like a relatively like happy person. How have you not allowed those green rooms? I'm sure that they're filled sometimes with a lot of darkness, right? How do you not let that sort of take you off course and stay
No,
true to yourself?
it's my green room, so the only one in there is me and my
Yeah.
opener. No, you know, it's like, does comedy attract broken people or do people break when they're in comedy? And I think the answer is both. It's like a chicken and the egg thing. There are very sad moments and there are very, like humbling moments. And there are times where you're just like, okay, I'll just what? Like just kill myself? Is that what people want? There are times you feel really, I'm not going to kill myself. There are times you feel really bad for yourself, but that's any job. And I guess what it always comes back to is like, are you going to let them take this away from you? Like, are you going to let the actions of someone who probably wasn't even thinking about you decide that you're going to be sad? The answer is sometimes yes. We've all got to feel down to like build ourselves back up again. I think also, I have a unique journey in this, in that I became a headliner very young. So for better or for worse, and I've talked about this a lot, I bypassed a lot of those years in the trenches that many comics my age are actually still in, where you're opening or you're headlining like a B club and you're on
Yeah.
the road and you're hoofing it. And there is no wrong way to do this career. People need entertainment. Um, because I was always the headliner, I just always assumed anyone being rude, because they would be rude. A guy comes into your green room and he's like the third opener and he doesn't look at you. Or, some guy like harasses you or whatever. I just always assumed it was coming from a place of their own insecurity. It's so loud. So kind of always brushed it off. Now, of course, if you're a woman who doesn't feed into it, then you might get labeled something, but I'm not concerned with that because I know at the end of the day, anybody who knows me, I like my friends, I like being nice, I like helping people and giving chances. If you come to me with an attitude, I will ice you out. And you may interpret that as you will, but chances are, if you walked away thinking I wasn't nice, it's because you were very rude to me. And
Yeah.
I just I didn't want that energy. I am extremely susceptible to other people's like vibrations. You ever just meet someone and you're like, oof, bad vibe, bad vibe. Don't.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
people are just misunderstood and you have to, as the smarter one, sometimes give people that second chance to like reintroduce themselves. I don't think anybody tries to be mean, but I do think, and a lot of times, male insecurity is a very ugly thing. And I see it with girls too. Like other comics don't want to say hi because they're afraid or they're intimidated. And I've never, other than one who I'm thinking of, I've never gotten the cold shoulder from a comic when I've gone, I'm like, hey, oh my God, I'm a big fan. That was really funny. That's what we want to hear. So I always get DMs after, even from fans like, "Oh my god, I didn't wanna bother you." And I'm like, "I'm not so famous that I'm, like, being swarmed by like, you can come say hi. I'm not the Queen of England, like, you can come say hi." I wish comics I think at somewhere along the way, comics kind of learned, in our culture to, like, be, like, aloof. and like not even see anyone. And it's like, oh man, if you only knew like the worlds of warmth that could be opened by like having a conversation with another comic.
It goes back to what I said about you
Sorry, these
when
answers are so long.
they're so good. I think people are going to appreciate how generous you are. You're
Oh,
just
they
so
better.
generous and cute. But what I said about you at the beginning is there's something about you that just feels so, it makes me feel at ease. You're endearing. There's a kindness. And I think it goes to what you first said, which is like, nobody's thinking about you. Like this kind of idea of like, if somebody's coming in with an attitude, it's not about me, it's kind of about them, right? It's like, it's
100%. But it
you're
doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt your feelings. Like I still
right.
take it, I took it personally the other night when a comic like walked away from me as I was talking and they're like, well, he's just weird. I'm like, or fuck him. But I'm still not going to ever, I might say something next time, but most people don't mean it.
Yeah.
And if
And
they
at the
do, it's a compliment because it means they're intimidated.
yeah, well, people are intimidated by you. It's unique to see somebody who it has a sense of self. And that's the other thing. I think that women in general have been taught to be really, really sweet and really good. And so we need to be nice all the time. And I like that the other side of it is you're like, no, like I don't have to be, right?
I
Like
mean, no, the other side of it is I am nice
well,
because
you
there's
are
no
as
one to,
default.
well, but there's like in general, I always try to check myself. I always think because it's so easy. This soundbite's going to get taken out of context, but those are bad people. It's so easy to dislike women because it's the lower hanging fruit, right? It's easier to criticize women than it is to actually take a step back and look at the larger picture of the patriarchy that we're all sort of embroiled in. It's easier to call a woman a name versus, and everybody's responsible for their own behavior. But like, I'll hear a woman, I'll be like, oh, her voice annoys me. But then I think, like, why does it annoy me? Is it, am I reacting to the fact that she is carrying herself with strength and dignity? And I'm like,
Right.
oh, bad a lot, like giving it that second thought to be like, what was that bothered me? And is it really something about myself? Now, you can't do that all the time. Some people are just awful, but we so heavily penalize women for like these mild infractions. And then a guy comes in and like shoots
Yeah.
up a school and we're like, okay, we'll let him out on bail.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of guys, I was going to ask you,
Speaking of school shooters,
yeah,
sorry.
speaking of school shooters, exactly. So I find it amazing when women who are strong and cool and funny meet a guy who can make room for that, right? And like, and you can still find him sexy and funny. And you did that. How did you, how did that work that you
Okay,
found your husband, that this made sense?
let me just say this. We are too much internet in the world. And there's, first of all, I
Too much
always
internet.
get like called like strong. And I'm like, what's strong? I just paid my bills in life and like did a job that I loved. I'm
Right.
not saving children. I'm not spending hours in a lab. I'm not up there like debating on a presidential stage. Stand up
Right.
is very intimidating, but like I'm a girl who loves to kiss her dog on the mouth and really likes it if somebody like is sweet to me, and I like buying things for like these are very like feminine sweet things. I like making a bed for my husband and I like putting out his vitamins. Like it's there's these labels, even the toughest woman you can, even like an MMA fighter, like there's still like a duality to that. Now, do my husband and I have like a bit of a role reversal? Yes, but I think it's also this thing where it's so shoved down your throat, the type of guy you're supposed to be with, or the type of guy you're supposed to give a chance to. First of all, I never gave anybody a chance that I thought was an idiot or an asshole. Women get in these relationships where they constantly give men chances. And it's like, if he makes you feel bad, like that's not a relationship. And I've just always subscribed to that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a relationship expert, but like understanding yourself and that your goals matter. I have a podcast and girls are always like, should I quit this school that I'm in to move across country with my boyfriend? The answer is fucking no. You have a life too, and your dreams and your goals are just as valid and as important. And that carries through even out of a relationship. I remember being in an improv troupe and a guy would go to talk over me, and I'm like, my punchline is just as valid, definitely funnier. Like my shot at this mic is just as important as yours. And it's like, oh, I'm shrinking back. We have to consistently remind ourselves, like, you don't have, it's not about being a bitch or being too strong. Like, you matter just as much, and what you want matters. Whether it's him going down on you matters just as much as you going down on him. Him paying matters as much as you paying. We've created this culture where it's like, I'm a princess, he should buy me everything, but I also don't want to, like, these are not real expectations. Hip hop has set an unrealistic expectation. Instagram has set an unrealistic expectation. You want to find somebody that makes you feel good, ideally that you're attracted to. Women are, it's always like, just go, he's hideous, but he's so sweet. That's not right either. So dating is, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, but I tend to not, I only went out with like strong silent types who find women like me, who find strong women attractive. But this isn't about like browbeating a guy. I don't have the desire to like dominate a guy in an argument, and you find that balance. And I think so many girls are just we feel so bad, and especially as you get older, there's such a pressure. I got engaged at like 35 or 36, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world because I was busy building something, and I was busy being alone on the road and loving my job and dating, like doing whatever. The universe is perfect. I really believe that.
I love how you're kind of calling this out, that even calling a woman strong for just like doing you is ridiculous. And
because she didn't roll over and die and like blow
right.
someone.
And it's because we're raised in a way where I just spoke to a girl yesterday who said to me, I was good at math in 4th grade and I got like the side eye from all these guys because it was okay that I was good at English, but like I shouldn't be good at math. And she's like, so I started to shrink for the rest. So even that.
No more shrinking.
Yeah. Right.
Because there's too many women in this world for you to shrink. There's more women than men. So who cares what the guys think? But also, we all want to feel sexy. We want to feel attractive. There's always going to be that type of guy that doesn't want you that you want. There are so many. I am not the kind, I'm a feminist in that I think everybody's terrible. There are so many good men out there, and it's so easy to be like, men are shit. And it's like, no, you pick garbage consistently. The common factor is you. And I'm not vilifying you. I'm saying like, I've never had a boyfriend where like, if there's of all the boyfriends, I don't talk to a ton of them. And if I saw most of them, I'd give them a hug, like on the street. My husband would watch and we'd all be super turned on. No, don't date men that are shitty. Find people who feel good. I've never had that. For as much as I talk about men and women, I've never had this, like, I've had psychos in my life, but like my boyfriends as an adult, like they've been nice people, and they're the kind of men that don't find this intimidating. My husband is not, he's so secure, and that's what you want. Male insecurity is a very toxic, dangerous, scary thing.
Yeah.
And look for those red flags, because literally somebody asked me this on our first date. My husband and I went to see a movie, and I was in shorts. I was trying to have tan legs that summer, didn't work. And I brought my jeans in my bag, and I got out of the movie with him, and I said to him, I have a set to do. You do not have to come. It's totally okay if you don't want to, but if this works out, you're going to have to see the act at some point. And I brought him with me knowing if he didn't like it, that's okay. You don't have to even love my stand-up to marry me. I mean, it's a little weird if you don't respect it at all, but like, I don't even care if I'm his favorite comic, because it has nothing to do with my mission. You want men that are supportive, and there are so many men out there that are. We're just all trained to look at like a different kind of guy, but there are so many men that like love women, that treat women with respect. And I bet you there's more out there than not.
I love that. It's so right on. And you said before, like you've been attracted to like the quiet, the strong, quiet types. And
they always have big penises. Always.
There you go.
The quieter they are.
Well endowed. So the thing about it is I'm such a
podcast.
Yes, it's for the whole. Yeah, my kids are right here. Hey.
Hey guys.
So I'm such a talker and an extrovert, and my husband is much more like the quiet type. And sometimes I feel like I'm coming out of my skin. How do you do that when this is so, the world that you swim in is like the talkative, like expressive, creative place, and then you're sitting at dinner or you're taking a walk and he's cool, just like being quiet. How does that not make you anxious?
Oh my God, there have been times where, because I am guilty of, like, I plan out a whole, most women do this, I plan out a whole argument in my head, like a fictional argument
Of
that's
course.
never gonna happen. And it's your way of sort of anticipating the worst so that you're prepared, because as a comic, you always wanna, and it's bad because it takes up energy and it's draining. It's we'll be like on our walk and I'll just be like, yeah, and then he's gonna be like, okay, well, I don't want to book you for that. And then I'm gonna be like, okay, well, here are the other people you booked. And then my husband will be like, and then what does he say? I'll be like, and then he is honest with me about how much money they are. He's like, and then what do you say? Like, he thinks it's very funny. Or I'll get fired up. He'll be like, who are you talking to right now? Or like, you've already told me this. So I think I think someone making fun of you who loves you is like one of the greatest ways to show love. He doesn't do it often, but when he makes fun of me, I just like drop to the floor crying, because I know that he would never do anything to hurt me. So him making fun of me, and it's like, yeah, Eliza, like take it easy. The amount of times he'll be like, Eliza, you are out of breath chewing and I can hear your jaw clicking. Like, you need to take it easy. I'm like, okay. He's like, why don't you get out a plate and a fork and not just eat over the sink? I'm like, okay, I'll take it easy.
You guys are so cute. How did you meet Noah? Were you set up, or how did you meet?
No, I met him on a dating app. I met him on Raya, and I had never done a dating app because I've always been like just famous enough that it's irritating, but not so famous that like it's helpful. And got out with a couple guys, and then I met him, and like that was that. But you want the balance. And I don't know, like, ask your mother what you need. Like, my mom got married a little bit later in life, so I always assumed I would too. And I love a funny guy, but there's different kinds of funny. And I'm not a loud person, and I'm not like an energy suck. Like, I don't walk into a room like, look who's here. Like, that's horrible. But you find someone and it naturally, you fill in where the other one left off.
You guys are adorable. I've seen the videos of the two of you doing your cooking together and cute stuff.
Thank you.
So if you haven't seen that, if you're listening, go watch them. They're
Or watch
adorable.
Don't
So
Panic Pantry Mondays and Thursdays on my Instagram.
yes. And speaking of the social and the content, tell me about podcasting and why did you decide to start a podcast on top of everything else that you do?
Okay, so my first podcast was called, what was the first podcast called? Truth and Eliza. And that was several years ago. And I started it because I want to have my own late night show or my own talk show. And I thought this would be a great way to work on interviewing skills. This is this was several years ago. So this is like, podcasts were big, but this is before literally everyone had a podcast. And I did it just as a way to get better at it, because almost every comic has a podcast. Not every comic should. Not everybody should. This is a lovely interview, but the amount of people who give just terrible interviews where,
Yeah.
when you watch late night show hosts, whether you like them or not, like I did Jimmy Kimmel, and I was so amazed. He would ask me questions and he would listen,
Yeah.
and he wasn't waiting for his turn to talk, and he wasn't waiting to like give his story.
Right.
And
Right.
I'll never forget this. I did Jimmy Kimmel right before the pandemic happened, like the day before. Thank God I got it in. And he asked me a question about like the first time I did stand up. And I gave the answer. And then we go to commercial, and he and I just like lean in to talk. And the first time I did stand up was on a ship. And he leaned in, he goes, my first time doing stand up was also on a ship. And he was like, it was like a cruise with my family. I go, why didn't you say anything? He goes, I wanted you to have your moment. And I was like, that's the most egalitarian, like elegant thing a man in comedy has ever said or
Yep.
allowed me. Anyways, I started a podcast to do that, and over a couple
Menschy
iterations.
human being, such a mensch.
And so I did it for that. And then especially during the pandemic, it's been an outlet. It's a way to entertain. You're always, as an artist, I'm always looking for ways to diversify the ways in which I entertain. If someone came up to me and said, would you like to do a Broadway play? I'd say yes. I'll find an acting coach and I would be there. It's always about like challenging yourself and other streams of revenue.
So tell us what people can expect from the podcast that you're doing now, Ask Iliza Anything.
Ask Iliza Anything is a listener-driven show where people send in their questions. You can ask me life advice questions, basic questions, any kind of question about anything, and you submit them to our Ask Iliza Anything Instagram account. We cull the best ones, and it's an advice show where
Love it.
we shout out your name and we answer your questions. And it's great because you don't have to book a guest. You can have guests on when you want them, but there isn't the pressure to do that, which of course you understand. And we've created our own little fiefdom of questions and answers and advice, and it's fun. It's a fun, digestible show.
I love that you're like anything. If you want to know how to get to Montana, if you want, no, but I mean,
I will give you that answer.
what are the craziest kinds of questions that you're asked? What's the range from like the most normal to like something out there?
It's really a lot of personal. It's usually like a family drama thing.
Family
Or
drama.
it's like, my
Yeah.
dad's secretly racist and I know that he's
Oh
married to someone else.
no.
Like, what do I do?
Oh my God.
And granted, we're like reading these later, so you've probably already done whatever. A lot of them are like I said earlier, like, I want to do this. My boyfriend wants me to move in with him in Albuquerque. What,
Right.
just me doing my best to say to girls who were like maybe younger sometimes, like, hey, like, you matter too. Sometimes we'll get guys asking, like, was I the creep? Here's what happened. Sometimes we'll do a deep dive on the account, and like I'll be like, look, I looked you up. You are not ugly. You do not need to put up with this.
Oh my
Or I
God.
look at them, I'm like, oh my God, look, you're not great looking. No, I don't say that to them. So it's just their chance for me to like give you insider info from like a hot take on your life, or chicken strips or chicken nuggets. Which one's more valid?
I
So
love that you chose this. And again, it's just so you because I feel like so many other comics would have had a podcast where they just talk to their famous friends, which would have been fine and delightful.
I only have Mayim Bialik and Sharon Stone. Other than that, and
Oh
maybe
my
like Joe
God, what
Coy.
such
I
different
don't.
women.
I just think also it's like a lot of podcasts are like the same people interviewing each other over and over.
Right.
And luckily for me, I'm naturally funny. So I'm like, I'm just going to do this on my own. But I love creating a rapport with the fans. The artwork they make me, like the world that we've created together. I enjoy existing in that and bringing in people that I want to versus have to. Um, I work alone, so I don't have as many famous friends as I should. I guess I just had Jay Leno on. I don't know.
That's
That's fine.
awesome.
Yeah. All it took was me like flying to the Middle East to do a show with him. And now we're like forever bonded.
Yeah, that's all you
I,
had to
I
do.
just I don't like the asking thing, but some people do it well, like Rob Lowe, right? Like he's got when you're super famous, anyone will do it. At my level, I don't know if I can handle the rejection of hearing like, like Melissa Milano's busy this week,
That's
saving the
never
world.
that would
Yeah.
never happen to you.
Mhm.
How do you feel about the pandemic and the fact that the live show thing, like, has it been killing you? Like, are you so ready to get on stage, or are you finding that something else is like being born inside of you from the space that this has created?
You know, it was really hard. The pandemic hit, and look, don't DM me like I lost my aunt. That was really hard for sure. Like nobody has a monopoly on tragedy. So don't tell me kids are starving in Africa if I say I hurt my foot. Like, okay, I get the perspective. It was really, we were about to launch this like 40 city tour and a Europe tour and Asia, like all this stuff. And it overnight disappeared. In addition to the constant in my life, which had been like getting up every night and all the
Yeah.
clubs closed. So there are a couple of comics in LA who really worked hard to very quickly produce COVID safe live shows.
Yeah.
And I've been doing those for several months now. One of them is this woman named Tammy Joe who does Magic Asphalt, which is in the parking lot of the Magic Castle. It's a drive-in. And she COVID compliant and it's a drive-in, and that's really cool in terms of like keeping a scene alive. So it's interesting because like everything that you knew was taken away, and it's interesting to see, and a lot of people moved away, like who has emerged, the way that the landscape has shifted, and you got to just go with it. Like it's not the same as it was. The life you knew is over. My tour is relaunching, so I'm optimistic about that. The word good is, I'm reticent to use it, but what was good, quote unquote, about this, when you get your, not crutch, but like when you get your thing taken away, the thing that you do, if you don't have to, like, fortunate for me, like I didn't have to go get a day job, so I had a chance to think, well, what else can I do at this time? And I remember there was this article at the beginning, I think it was like in the New York Times or something. Also, I want to let people know that I read New York Times. That's my way of letting you know. It might have been the New Yorker, I don't know. I click on the articles and then they're like, you didn't pay for this. But it was just like, you don't have to be busy during the pandemic. Like, it's okay to not be busy. it's okay to not be productive. And I was like, nice try. Don't gaslight me into thinking it's okay not be productive. I will be
Right.
here in this time. Not only did we create this cooking show, so yesterday we celebrated a year anniversary of doing this cooking show with my husband. I sold a book that I wrote during this, the pitch for it. I worked on the screenplays that I wanted to finish up, and I have a couple of other things coming out. Like, I really use this time to tend to all the other projects that kind of only get little droplets of my attention because stand up was so all
Yeah.
consuming. And I think I'm coming out a more balanced entertainer because I was able to tend to those things. And it turns out I don't need stand up to breathe, but I do enjoy it for thriving. So I'm happy to get back to that.
So good. My only follow-up question to that is whenever I think of those like 40 city tours and all that, and I know you've been doing that. You said you just went to the Middle East and that's how you met Jay Leno. Like, how do you do that and not feel exhausted, or how does it stay fun? And like you wake up and you don't even know, like, what city am I in? Hello, Baltimore. Where are we? Like, how
Yeah,
do you do that? And that is not something that becomes just exhausting, but actually you thrive in that environment.
you don't. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
It is exhausting. Get you a good eye cream with algae. Get an eye cream. Try to, I mean, as I get older, I need like 10 hours of sleep. And I'm not a night owl. Um, so my big MO after I always try to like push the tickets. I'm like, let's do a 7 and a 9, not an 8 and a 10:30. Um, my
Right.
MO is like finish that show, eat as much as I can, go to bed. Um, you find ways, like, do you take the later flight? Always buy a first class ticket. Like, doing whatever you can to afford yourself some comfort, but it is exhausting. And sometimes you don't realize how you don't realize how exhausting it is until like 5 days later, it just like hits you. Like that energy catches up. But it's like jumping on a trampoline. It's exhausting, but you're having the best time. So it
Yeah.
kind of doesn't matter that you're exhausted. And the second you get on that, you're just so happy to be there with the people. I love doing that job. And honestly, for the longest time, it is such a great outlet to have when Hollywood says no to you so
Yeah.
much. Then you get to go on the road and see the rest of the country and realize, like, reminding, that's right, we're all one country. These people are not evil
Yeah.
because they live in a different state or vote differently. And I really love being an American, and I love
That's
having a
awesome.
working knowledge of the cities and states, and that keeps
Yeah.
me going. But it
That's
is
awesome.
exhausting, and I look tired all the time.
How do you get on stage and not ever get scared that you're gonna forget? You do these sets that are like an hour, and I'm like, how does she remember? How do you not get freaked out that you might forget something in minute 38?
You do. You move past it.
And you're cool.
Do I have nightmares about it all the time? Yes. It's also the same nightmare where I forgot my lines for a play and I can't get the class. Um, Sometimes you do, but you're confident enough and like you've done this enough. Like, oh my God, it happened the other night. I went on a rant and then I got stuck on like a thing that I'd improvised and I was like, what was I talking about? And it took a full 15 seconds of
So what
people
do you
going like,
do?
I just
Oh,
listen.
you
They
literally
tell me
said to them, what was I talking
what was I
about?
talking
I
about?
love that.
Interesting what everyone thinks I was talking about. And then someone's like, school districts. You're like, that's it. Okay, we're back in. Like, it's fine. It's fine. You're never gonna forget enough that you're like, and I gotta put this mic down. Or you just move past it and come back to it later. And that's the art of it, is working it back in. You forget sometimes. And that's
I
okay.
love that. I love that you're just like, what was I talking about? Like, you let it be okay that you are being obvious about the fact that you forgot.
Yeah. Sometimes I bring notes, sometimes I don't. If it's like new stuff, I'll bring like little words that I've written down. It's never the art of this job is not the memorization, it's the performance. So who cares if somebody had to look at a piece of paper or if they forgot something? Like, are you having fun? Good. Sit the fuck down.
So good. You're the best. Tell us where we can find you, your podcast, your cooking show, your book, your everything.
People have already turned off, but for those of you that are still listening, Don't Panic Pantry is Mondays and Thursdays. We just did a Le Creuset giveaway because they're one of our sponsors. It's Mondays and Thursdays on my IG Live. My podcast, Ask Iliza Anything, is on Wondery. It's where all normal podcasts are found. And come see me. I always post when I do shows every weekend in LA, so it's always on my Instagram. I live on my Instagram. But if you want tickets to see me in another city, it's iliza.com/tour. Yeah.
How much do you
Thanks.
love that you own that URL? It's just like, it's mine.
I bought
Eliza.com.
it so early, and I bought Iliza Shlesinger in case someone wanted to do something weird with it. I got it.
You are the cutest. This was so fun.
Thanks.
I knew that it would be, but it's even more fun.